many people, because like they're doing like Dolphins Chiefs in like Germany or wherever in a few weeks, and that's going to be like one of the best games. Depending on how things
Josh,
go.
you're not looking forward to the Toy Story version on Disney Plus of what is it, Jags Falcons?
I think that's right. 9:30 Eastern time.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I feel like that was one of the things I was following.
Yeah, it probably was.
What was it? Was that?
Yeah, maybe was it last week that I talked about that?
You talked about food
at some point. You talked about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is great and terrifying because of all the technology that Disney is using to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. We just have no idea what this actually means, but
I have no clue. I took
the slime cannons from Nickelodeon and like steroids.
Yeah, I want this to be genuinely either the single greatest moment in sports, or I want it to be their version of 10-cent beer night.
Yeah, train
whatever
wreck.
that means. I want it to be an absolute such a train wreck that a 30 for 30 gets made about it.
Yes,
like that type of bad.
Absolutely.
If it's meh, then I'm gonna 100% like swear off of the NFL.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm ready if you guys are.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll record and then I'll be ready.
I am recording.
I am.
We're good.
Recording.
On my end.
Hang on. I accidentally bumped my mic up way too loud. 1 second.
Audacity always wants to use my speakers. Don't use my speakers,
check.
please.
All right. YouTube stream, let me know if I'm just completely blowing out your eardrums. I don't think I am. But, okay. Check. I think I'm good. I don't think I'm peaking. Check. Yeah, I think I'm good. All right. I'll get it started. Welcome to the Fifth and Goal podcast. I'm Aaron. Josh is here, and Johnny is here as well. Johnny's no longer dead. He's back with us from the desert lands of Colorado. Johnny, welcome back. Looked like you had some fun.
I mean, at least I know where Colorado is, unlike USC's social media. You know, if you missed the Twitter post with them posting Caleb Williams riding a bison in Yellowstone National Park, believing that is the same place as Boulder, Colorado.
Hold on, let me pull out my globe.
Yeah, we're hurting the geography again here. So,
yep.
Luckily, every USC Trojan fan was
fine.
also like, "This is hilarious how wrong you guys are right now." So, you know, they're taking it in good fun. I had a great week, obviously, being out there. Got to watch the Buckeye game still with my cousin out there. They're big fans. They're from Ohio originally too. So nail biting, of course.
Boy.
But a great week with the family out there. Lots of hiking.
Well, good. Josh, I am happy to report that Ohio State's demise was dramatically overstated, at least for now. I'm happy to be wrong about that. And if you're like me, hopefully your week was good because Ohio State didn't lose.
Here's what I was trying to do. I have a big paper that I'm trying to finish by this coming Monday. And I had to do some research for it. I'm like, well, I'll watch. My roommate was watching the Baylor-Texas game because he's a Baylor alum and turned it off at halftime because
that was
we figured out who wasn't. We determined who wasn't back. And so he went to go two-stepping as a good Texan. And so I watched the second half of the Notre Dame game. It's his therapy. That's how he recovers his two-stepping. It's great. No, he's a true Texan.
Yep.
And so I could not mentally, emotionally, or physically do anything but stare at that gosh darn screen and beg for anything but a jet sweep.
I hate that freaking jet sweep. If I ever see that play call again, so help me. When's the last time that's worked at all? Forget about the 4th and 1. When's the last time we've actually called that play and it's worked? I don't remember.
It was so bad.
The play that always works is an HB slam. The play that never works is a jet sweep. Does Ryan Day even play Madden? I don't think he does. This is the thing, and I love this. We're going to transition. My week was fully defined by the fact that the Steelers were able to do something on the road.
Right.
That Kenny Pickett looked decent, and that Ohio State, by 1 second, was able to make sure a thing didn't happen, even though there was one fewer defensive person on the field. We'll talk about that in a second. I love that Ryan Day got so fired up at the ends. Hey, bud, you can't out-tough the fact that you play like you see, and this is Bud. Can I call you Bud, Mr. Day? Yell at whoever you want for as long as you want. I don't care. Genuinely don't. But do it when you've actually done good play calling and weren't bailed out by the gutsiness of your players. You didn't win that game. Kyle McCord did. And even then, he barely won it. There was a lot of really bad plays on that final drive that almost went bad.
Yeah. And
they got it. Congratulations. You did it against a 10-man defense.
I mean, there is really truly some irony in the fact that Ryan Day is talking about, is preaching toughness. And to be fair, that was a tough win. They gritted that one out. It was,
absolutely. No,
but
that is 100%.
With the 4th and 1 play call in mind, like that's the play call you ran. Like there is a bit of irony and boasting about how tough this team is. And look, a win's a win. Obviously all of our weeks were collectively better as Buckeye fans. Yeah. But what's the narrative? And thankfully we don't have to really know, but what's the narrative if Ohio State loses that game? Because the 4th and 1, which is obviously Buckeye fans are still upset about that, right? But that's the entire talking point. It's not even at that point, wow, look at Notre Dame. They beat Ohio State. I mean, it is going to be that a little bit, but everyone would point to that 4th and 1 and say, oh, Ryan Day came in there talking about how he wants to, open up the playbook and let things, whatever. And we didn't really see that. But I'll give credit to Kyle McCord. Josh, you bring up a good point. Notre Dame had their hands on an interception that final drive. Yeah. They did not play the right number of people for several plays. Apparently, this has happened in weeks previous. They were just playing 10 defensive players against Tennessee State in week 1.
Who's the quality control coach, man? I mean, gosh, dang. Yeah. Because everybody's hating on Marcus Freeman. That's not actually the head coach's job in that situation.
Right.
So all of his answers in the press, after the game and this week, guys, it's covering for someone. The head coach is not the one who can be worried about, wait, how many players are out there every play? There's a million coaches on that sideline. That's not Marcus Freeman's job. So his excuses didn't really make a lot of sense because every single time you take a penalty there and move the ball 2 more inches closer to the goal line to get an 11th player, you would do that every time.
Yep.
But he's covering for someone there. He's doing his job as the head coach. But man, when I saw those tweets of it happening earlier in the season, I'm like, who is in charge? Who's the quality control guy on the defensive side? He is in trouble right now. He is in big trouble.
Oh man. Yeah, he is. So that was good. I didn't really talk about my week, but Josh, I'm kind of with you. My week was.
Oh yeah, how were you?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know. I think I was good.
We were both texting each other as soon as that happened.
Oh my gosh!
I was genuinely I could not stand. I was
fried.
I was fried.
Well, and so
exhausting.
For me, my wife Danielle went to bed, and so I couldn't do what I would normally do and run around the house, yell, and be excited. So I kind of did the same thing. I kind of just laid on the floor, and I was like, "What the heck just happened? What happened?" So. I don't know how we feel about Ohio State. I feel like we didn't really gain clarity in that game to a lot. That's why if you're looking at our 5th and goal poll, we still have Ohio State at 7. And it's not necessarily a slam on Ohio State you only went into a top 10 team and won on a last second play. It's not so much that as it is the teams that we have above them, Texas, Florida State, they have just as impressive wins, but they've done it in more impressive manner. And the Buckeyes will have plenty of opportunities. Don't look at that and say, oh, you guys are never going to put Ohio State in the top 4, even if they go undefeated. Okay, no. Maryland's going to be undefeated, top 25 team next week. The Buckeyes still play Penn State. They still play Wisconsin. They still play Michigan. The toughest tests are still to come. Look, I'm pleased that Ohio State is 4-0 because a loss there would have, there would have been some alarm bells going off. There would have been full panic. You would have had the fire Ryan Day thing back, which I think is still ridiculous, even though I'm with you guys. The play calling was a little suspect at times. So Ohio State, for now, escapes. Notre Dame, on the other hand, has to go to Duke, where College Game Day is going. Shout out College Game Day. They've never been to Duke. They're checking that one off the list. So that's what Notre Dame has next. After that, they go to Louisville, who will probably be 5-0 and probably another road top 25 game for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Josh, I mean, we talked about this last week. Like, hey, if this does go bad for Notre Dame, if they do lose, their road ahead is real tough. Bad. And then there's USC, and then there's Clemson on top of that. So that's what's ahead for Notre Dame. We might get into that Duke Notre Dame game a little bit, but let's go back in time to the noon slot on Saturday. I will say this, week 4 lived up to its billing just about as well as it could have. I mean, I know that Oregon-Colorado game was just a blowout, but it was still interesting. It was probably the most entertaining blowout there's ever been.
And that's something that Coach Sanders brings to this Colorado team that is so innovative. You know what he did, Aaron? Geez. You know what he did? I know your tone. You're about to go in and start bashing Colorado and start bashing Sanders like you do because I know you hate him.
You're right.
And one of the things that, you know what he did? He's playing this 4D chess. He didn't get plays off on Saturday so that he doesn't give his opponents film to use against him.
Yeah.
Enemy can't know what they can't predict.
Yeah. Well, I was going to talk about Florida State Clemson, but since we're on the subject, I mean, we can talk about Oregon. And really, the focus should be on Oregon more. I do have to chuckle a little bit that Oregon, you got Dan Lanning in the locker room and he's saying, "Oh, we're not here to get clicks, we're here to get wins," which is just hilarious. And by the way, Dan Lanning was not speaking to you at home, Mr. or Mrs. College Football fan. He was not. Everyone's up in arms like, I can't believe he would say this. He wasn't talking to you. He was talking to his own team. Because which team in the last 20 years has played for more clicks than Oregon? Nobody. If you have 5,000 uniform combinations and Mr. Nike is on your sideline just chilling and you got like the 6-minute mini movie after the game, you're doing it for clicks. By the way, here's a little secret. Everyone's trying to get clicks because you win college football games by getting clicks, because the clicks mean that recruits come in. So make no mistake, Dan Lanning was not talking to you. He is not, he's not ignorant to the fact that Oregon is just as desperate for clicks as anybody else.
Right.
It was a great speech because it hit exactly the right nerve of his team that it needed to. So I just laugh at the criticism of Dion. Yeah. I laugh at the criticism of Dan Lanning. They're not talking to you. They're talking to their teams, and it's worked. And I'll give Dion credit too. They got killed, and he took responsibility.
He owned it.
He owned it. He was cordial in the handshake line. I don't know why people were so dramatic about that. What else did you expect from him?
It's not personal.
No.
I think everybody, that's always the mistake, is this is like a cutthroat business. You winning means someone's losing. Not everyone can win. That's why some, I listen to a wide variety of other college football stuff. And sometimes people are just optimistic the whole time talking about all of these teams. And I'm like, guys, there's only so many wins to go around.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be bad. It's cutthroat. These coaches, it is not personal. Believe us, for the most part, it's not personal. And who's the best college football coach ever? Nick Saban. You know, the one who slams his Coke bottle down at least 2 or 3 times a season / off season and sends a message to his players via the media. Nick Saban. It was so overblown. It was ridiculous. But that also was venting. If you watch SportsCenter throughout the week, they literally interviewed Dan Lanning, and it took 6 questions to get one about his own team.
Yep.
You would feel that exact same way and tired. And I'm sure the players shared that feeling as well, that we've been here for years. And this team, who barely escapes Colorado State at home, is getting all this attention, and they're coming here. Yeah, they're again, I don't think any of us were surprised. No one who follows college football is surprised at that outcome. Maybe we were surprised that, like, wow, Colorado couldn't even get like in the end zone. Sure, like we're surprised at maybe the scale, but no one was surprised that Oregon covered that game who really follows college football. While we said it early in the year, while Colorado is even better at the skill positions, especially at quarterback, than we ever imagined, they're just as bad at the lines of scrimmage as we expected as well. So, and ultimately, we also said, as the season drags on and attrition hits, unfortunately, it's a guy like Travis Hunter, who's probably the best player on your team, you don't have the depth to recover from that like other elite teams do. They can't block for Shedeur Sanders right now. He's getting sacked and hit more than any other quarterback in the country.
Yep.
They can't get enough pressure on defense to stop the run game. They're in trouble the rest of the year. That's why, I mean, Aaron and Josh were like 5 wins, and I felt a little extreme saying like 7. I think we're still about right hovering around that 500 mark with this team. And part of that's because the conference is so good this year as well.
It's
crazy not
good.
Just Colorado, but I mean, they got USC this week. Now, luckily for Colorado, I'll also say USC's weakness lines up with some of Colorado's strengths, and they'll be in Boulder again. So this week, while the point spread is similar, I would be stunned personally if it's as bad, especially because we've seen bad USC. Bad Oregon was on the road against Texas Tech and Lubbock in a night game. That's forgivable. Struggling against your third string quarterback in Tempe, Arizona, that's not great.
Yeah.
If you're USC. Those are two very different situations. And you saw that reflected in the rankings this week as well in the AP poll. So I'm not saying Colorado is going to win this week, but it won't be remotely what it was.
It'll be like 28-0 in the first quarter or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. USC's not going for fake punts or anything like that. Like I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado covered, but that's still, again, not saying even a whole lot.
Right.
You know, it's 21.5 right now. You would lose by 17. Like, that's covering. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you guys on that. The direction I was going to go is that noon slot where Florida State and Clemson played a pretty interesting game. And I'll be honest, there was a lot of teams that lost. Notre Dame obviously lost. That's a heartbreaking loss. But no one has been down as bad as Clemson. Just fans on Twitter just in shambles. And here's partly why. And I'm going to lean into the mic for this because you may not believe this stat unless you really listen closely. In their last 8 games against Power 5 teams, Clemson is 3-5. 3-5 in their last
That doesn't make sense.
8
They're elite.
Power 5 teams.
It's amazing.
It's interesting if you're a box score watcher, which I don't encourage. I encourage you to watch games, but I get it. You can't watch every single game on every Saturday as much as we would love everyone to, and including ourselves. If you watch box scores, more often than not in those 8 games, you would look at a box score and think, how did Clemson lose this game? Because often they have more yardage, they have more time of possession, any number of things. It's just been a lot of miscues and weird plays and somewhat random stuff that has sometimes led them to a loss. Clemson would love to tell you that the reason they lost on Saturday is because their top cornerback got injured. Now, that obviously was a contributing factor, but you just straight up lost. You've got 2 losses in September. Bye-bye college football playoff. Bye-bye ACC championship, because both of those losses, probably, right? Because both of those losses were in conference. At some point, it comes down to coaching. Florida State has Keon Coleman running 1-on-1. And I'll give the Tigers credit. They mostly kept him in check and a lot of the other weapons in that Seminoles offense, and they've got a lot of them. But when you've got Coleman making a couple plays, and I think he had the last touchdown, which essentially was the game winner.
Yep.
And where did he come from? Everyone say it with me, the transfer portal. So it was kind of a microcosm of Florida State's willingness and lots of other teams in the country, their willingness to use the transfer portal to their benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And Clemson and Dabo, we've said this over and over again, but it's finally making an impact. Dabo's unwillingness to use the transfer portal is really hurting this team. Because, yeah, their top corner got injured. That's no fun. That was a big contributing factor. But what if you went to the transfer portal and you had some depth lying around and you didn't have to rely on a freshman or sophomore to come in off the bench and you had some depth from the portal? Easier said than done, I know. But at this point, what is left for Dabo? Because we're realistically looking at an 8-4 season here. I think unless there's a big turnaround. Because number one, you are in danger of losing the locker room because of the bad start. Like, what are you playing for outside of just pride and your team and all that? Like, both the ACC championship and the playoff, those are out the window probably in all reality.
ACC's better than it's been in a long time this year.
Yeah. And you've got Notre Dame on the schedule, and you've got some other, like you said, the ACC is really good. I believe they play Miami. They've got some other games on the schedule. They already lost to Duke. North Carolina's decent. Louisville could be good, question mark. I don't really know. They haven't played really anybody yet, but I don't know. I'll open it up to you guys because I don't know what you think about this Clemson team. Obviously good for Florida State. That's probably where we should be focusing more, but I do want to talk about the Clemson thing. Florida State, the best 2 wins in college football right now. That's pretty impressive by them. A September that could have been 2-2 for them is 4-0, and all of a sudden they're almost a lock for the ACC championship.
We all thought probably more likely 2-2 than 4-0 with Florida State. So kudos to them.
Yep.
I've seen big caution flags, I guess, with Florida State, especially that Boston College game is just living in my mind still. So I'm not, I mean, honestly, without that Boston College game, Florida State would have a legitimate argument to be ranked number 1 in the country right now because of how good they've looked early on in the season. But it's hard to get that game in Chestnut Hill out of your head because really they should have lost. Boston College just continually unloaded on themselves with penalties. Anyway, Clemson. The heart of the issue with Clemson is a pride and arrogance issue. When talked and interviewed after, I believe, the Duke game, because they asked about why the offense was still struggling, and the offense really struggled in that Duke game. And that's why you brought Garrett Riley from TCU to be your new offensive coordinator. And I think when people saw that hire in the offseason, they're like, oh, okay, finally. He might not really be going into the transfer portal, but he was at least willing to finally bring in a outside coach outside of his Clemson family and, bring in some renewed resurgence in the offense, a new playbook. And he said, no, we're not running Garrett Riley's offense. We brought him here to run the Clemson offense. And I'm like, oh, red flag, red flag, because that is arrogant as can be. Like, and it doesn't matter what you think about Dabo, whether you like him or not as a person. That is just incredibly arrogant to say, look at what he did. He got TCU, Max Duggan to the national title game last year, how good TCU's offense was with far lesser parts in reality than what Clemson has, at least if you believe recruiting rankings. And he said, no, you're not going to do any of the innovative stuff that you've done previously. You're going to run this offense, this playbook. You're not changing anything. Well, how do you expect a different result? Constantly you see football evolves and then the defense catches up. It's circular. But look at the Dolphins right now in pro football. We're not going to talk a lot about pro football today, but they're just putting guys in motion like crazy and have the fastest 3 people on the field at all times. That's basically the point. Eventually defenses will get there, but the point is they're innovating, they're evolving. You can't just keep running the same offense for an eternity, especially when you don't have all-time talents at quarterback like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. You can't keep that streak going forever. It just doesn't happen. And the turnover in college football is too much to do that. So it's just a stubbornness issue. It evolve or die, Clemson. Evolve or die. Like you, Aaron, 8-4, 9-3, very likely this year. I don't think they're ever going to get to the 4-8 aspect of this because there's just too much talent there. but they're in big danger of going back to a 8-4, 7-5 team every year. Big danger. And Clemson, the Clemson base now is not used to that. I think people, like, you might underestimate how impatient people are. And at the end of this year, he could be on the hot seat going into next season.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on how this year ends.
Yeah.
That might sound insane for a 2-time national championship winning coach, but if the season ends poorly, he absolutely will be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Unless he's at least willing to alter his strategy.
Which he's not. I think he's just as soon retired.
He should retire then.
Yeah.
I don't even mean that in a like bad way. Like, this is how it is. Retire then.
Yeah. One more stat on the Clemson thing, because I think it points to what you're talking about with this offense. Now, I mentioned they've lost their 3-5 in their last Power 5. If you just go total, they've lost 4 of their last 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
They've outgained their opponents in 3 of those 4 losses and are plus 196 in yardage overall. They blew a 10-point lead in one of those games, a 9-point lead in one of those games. They're 3 of 8 on field goal attempts.
That's terrible.
They're minus 22 in points off of turnovers margin. They have 8 touchdowns on 17 red zone trips, and 5 of those touchdowns came on drives that started in plus territory. So that's some stats provided by David Hale on Twitter. Shout out to him for providing those stats. But it kind of gives you a picture, and stats don't obviously give you the entire picture, but it does give you a look at kind of the issues that are happening here. So
let's just cheer for a Clemson Iowa bowl game. That'd be incredible.
Oh man.
Oh
yeah, we had a bit of a
fantastic defense.
We had a bit of a setback in the Brian Ferentz 25 points per game.
Oh
yeah, he got real comfy after putting way too much up. He went, we could take a week off.
Yeah.
Oh,
back down to average.
Yeah.
The amount of people who I was seeing on Twitter saying like no one wants to be here. The vibes of this entire game are just bad. Was just one of those games. Just one of those games.
Yeah. I know they did it for TV.
Yeah.
But if you're Clemson, are you either kicking yourself or upset at the TV companies that you didn't get a night game out of this thing? Like, I know Ohio State Notre Dame was playing at night. I get that. But I don't know. If you're Clemson, that environment's just a little bit different at night. I don't know. I don't know whose decision it was. I mean, I'm sure ESPN has that TV contract with the ACC, so I imagine they are the ones that dictate that. And obviously, they weren't trying to compete with Penn State versus Iowa, so you know.
Well, if they join the SEC pretty soon, then it's not going to matter.
That's a whole thing too. That came out in the middle of this week. Like, hey, Clemson's leaving. Very unofficial rumors, but
someone said that perhaps maybe.
And then everyone else came back. Hey, we don't want him.
Anyone take him, please?
Yeah, I don't know. Just a completely random note as I've got Twitter pulled up and I'm going through my bookmarks to just talk about stuff, which is a little behind the scenes. That's what we do here. Ohio State does have a home and home. This goes back to what Josh and I were talking about last week. The home and home with Alabama is 2027 and 2028. Now,
won't happen.
That could all change. Yeah. We talked about that a little bit last week. If you have non-conference games on a schedule that far in advance, just look at it and kind of nod your head and then realize that if there's a 10-game conference schedule, Ohio State, Alabama, probably not playing each other.
Right.
Hey, if we're just real quick taking a quick break to do clear our bookmarks, so to speak. I did forget there is one more footy scran that I forgot to send you last week. And this one's American. This is honey butter chicken with waffle fries.
Okay.
With a drink, it is $30, but holy crap, it looks so good.
Where can one find this particular item?
It's at the LA Galaxy Stadium. So, and it was just sent to you guys. It looks
previous
so good.
Home of the Chargers.
Exactly.
And fans of other teams.
Any other things.
Wow. I like it.
I just had to send that real quick.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
No, that's a good note.
Do we want to talk about Alabama?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I thought actually the game was a lot more of an indictment on Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss than it was wow, look how good Alabama is. And honestly, I don't know how you couldn't have another takeaway after watching the atrocity that was South Florida and Alabama of, oh, Milroe needs to be the starting quarterback of this team, because Buckner and Simpson were atrocious. I mean, that was awful. And the team looks so uninspired. I know it got delayed and you're on the road against a group of 5 team. It's hard to get up for that after Texas, but that was one of the worst performances I've seen out of an Alabama team ever. Like ever. And that's like ever. And that's including all their losses. Like they look so bad in that game. So I'm happy, like Jalen for Milroe, he looked good in this game.
Mm-hmm.
The deep ball's never been his problem though, so I know he completed
got a
like
cannon,
some great,
man.
like the deep ball, and he's actually even pretty accurate.
Yeah, he is
in the deep ball.
Yep.
He's just really poor in those intermediate throws, really poor. But the problem is that's the majority of the game now in reality, and he doesn't have great wide receivers to bail him out. And the offensive line continues to struggle on his best throw of the day. And it was a great throw. He got leveled. I thought he might have gotten a rib broken when he got hit, and it was totally legal hit. I mean, his offensive lineman just let him hang out to dry. So, I mean, Alabama's defense looked more like Alabama. That's going to be absolutely critical. I think this still is probably the team who's in the SEC title game at the end of the year, because the West is awful. I mean, like it's in shambles already.
Yeah.
It's already in shambles. Ole Miss, LSU play each other this week. I know LSU doesn't, their loss isn't a conference game, but you have major questions about them. They barely beat Arkansas. I mean, so in a way, it feels almost like an elimination game.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's
certainly
very, very dramatic this early in the season, but it just kind of is, because Ole Miss already lost to Alabama. Like the SEC they have Georgia, and then you're kind of like, I don't really know. And I have a big beef with the rankings right now in the AP poll. We don't need to talk about that.
We can talk about it.
Oh my goodness.
This is our chance to plug the 5th and goal poll. You know me. I'm ready to plug the 5th and goal poll.
What business does Ole Miss have to be ranked right now? Just in what world should Ole Miss be ranked? What have they done? What have they beat Tulane on the road without their starting quarterback? And if you actually watch the game instead of scoreboard watching, which we all know the AP voters all watch every minute of every game. They never just look at the scoreboard. Ole Miss loses that game if Pratt plays for Tulane. They lose. They lose that game. The final score was not remotely what that game was. Ole Miss shouldn't be ranked. I'd argue Tennessee and Florida shouldn't be ranked either. I mean, they're just insert SEC team here still. And most years, I'll give them credit. You could probably do that. This is not that year to just be insert SEC, random SEC team at the back of the poll. And we said it before, but I'll say it again. Everybody who's like, it doesn't matter, like it's until the college football playoff rankings. It does, because you've heard the committee members before literally say they have 4 ranked wins.
Yep.
And they're talking about in September. And that shouldn't count if you're saying that. So that was just a little frustrating for me when like there's been clearly better teams like that are deserving. But anyway, sorry, I got really off track there. Alabama, like, don't panic if you're a fan. Like, that should have been reassuring. You're going to out-talent most people you play. But I don't think you have a national championship ceiling this year. That's where I am there. I'm not saying you couldn't somehow make it to the playoff, but I would be absolutely stunned to see them. And that sounds ridiculous to say about a Nick Saban team, but I would be stunned to see this team hoisting the trophy at the end of the year, because I just don't see enough consistency out of the offensive line.
Yeah.
And out of Milroe at quarterback, or in fairness to him, or at receiver. They're not helping him either.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. That offensive line is still, I think that's probably the thing I might be most wrong about to this point in the college football season. I truly thought Alabama is just going to run the ball down teams' throats. And obviously they'll get their passing yards here and there, but that's not really been the case. They've needed Milroe to scramble a bunch. They've needed him to make plays down the field in the games they've won. So we'll see. Obviously, we're still in September, barely. There's time,
right?
But yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, well, let's preview a couple games that are upcoming. We kind of talked about Notre Dame. We kind of talked about USC, Colorado. It's one of our favorite weeks of the season. And why is that? It's because Kansas is playing Texas, the Jayhawks. Now, the Jayhawks could beat Texas. And if they do, we'll laugh about it. We'll say, Texas, how could you? The reality is Kansas is a really quality team. They're a really quality team. Now, they haven't played like super good competition, but they wiped out Illinois, who had a tremendous defense last year. They beat an undefeated BYU. And now they're a top 25 team heading to Austin. Texas, outside of Baylor, Josh, you talked about watching that game. Baylor has their own issues. Texas has played a little bit to the level of their competition. I mean, really just that game against Wyoming. Obviously, they beat Alabama by double digits on the road. That's obviously worth something. But I think not just because of the history, but I think to overlook Kansas and look at Texas and say, look at all that talent, automatic win. I think you're forgetting who plays quarterback for Kansas if you do that.
Absolutely. This is the thing we said would happen if Texas were to implode, which still could happen this semester. Guys, I've been in school too long.
That's right, though, Josh.
It is right. It's still a semester.
Student athlete.
Yeah,
very
right.
good.
Student athlete,
very
right.
Good.
Don't pay them. Season. One of these days I'll not have a paper to do after recording. That day is
I'm excited for you, Josh, when that day happens.
One of these days. And then I'll have the same on paper degree as you two. But my existential crisis aside, if Texas also implodes along with me this season, it comes through hubris. It comes through overconfidence or just a lack of, I don't want to say follow through. That's not the right word.
Focus.
But focus. Because post Red River Showdown, there seems to be, depending if they're one or two losses, there has seemed to be a pattern of them dropping easy games against West Virginia, against Baylor randomly, I feel like, simply because the team didn't look on the field like they were wanting to play for anything beyond like national championship or bust. And yeah, there's expectations of this Texas team, and I'd say reasonable expectations to at least have playoff conversations. And obviously, based on the fake AP poll, not a real poll that we put out today, they are in the playoffs if they were to start today. Right? Are they 4? Yeah. So
they're right there. Yeah.
I don't pay attention.
They're deservedly so
because,
up there. They're right behind. Well, wait, they're third. I believe Texas is third. Ohio State's fourth. Florida State's fifth.
Oh, that's right. Because Ohio State, snuck in.
Yeah. I think in ours they're 5, but subject to change. Obviously.
Either way, but the same issue of dropping games because we don't have anything to play for anymore. It goes the same way in the opposite, where you play down to your opponents. I mean, we've seen Ohio State. We got frustrated with Ohio State doing this occasionally, where their eyes were on something else. It looks like. I'm trying to remember the last time that happened, but there's a very real danger of Texas. I mean, because Kansas also has a legitimate history of upsetting Texas every now and then. Not often, not recently, but definitely one big time we all remember. Different team, but they're going back to that footage. They're going back to that tape just to look. It happened in Austin.
Yeah, I think it'll be the best game of the day.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a good game.
I honestly think it'll be the most entertaining game of the day. Could be wrong. Like, I think Texas will win, but I think this will be a fun game. And Vegas thinks so too. I believe it's a 5.5 point spread.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
I think that's like pretty like spot on. This is probably like a touchdown game ish. Like there will be points scored in this game for sure. So it will be a fun game. I can't wait to see Kansas kind of unload the playbook, because I'm sure they've been holding back a little too. So I'm excited. Kansas will have a like let it rip mentality. They're on the road in Austin.
This is the Big 12 farewell tour. Like they have to go out swinging.
They're going to give them everything they got, and Kansas could be like the third or fourth best team in this conference. Like this could be a bigger matchup than people are giving it credit for, like at face value, just because it's Kansas.
Is not the Kansas of this is not the Kansas of 3 or 4 years ago. Like
right. Lance Leipold is a fantastic coach, and I hope he stays in Lawrence forever.
Yeah. All right, I'm pausing because my camera died.
Oh.
Whoop. Give it a second. Just thinking about it. Okay.
You're back.
I'm very delayed.
I can't see your mouth with the mic. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, honestly, yeah.
I moved a while ago. It's, I think it's Discord.
Oh, it could be Discord.
Do you want me to pause Audacity?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Cut it out.
This is that extra stuff that goes in for the bonus show for the subscribers to our
Yeah,
Patreon.
you're welcome, YouTube. Did my whole stream crash? I have no idea.
Oh, weird. I'll check the stream. I guess you can check it too.
I think we're running now. Just my camera's not working. Let me. I'm gonna.
Yeah, everything's good
we're still
on
live.
our end except the camera. Like,
okay. Let me quit out of Discord real quick. Sorry, YouTube.
You don't have to be nice to him.
yeah, everything was good, but your picture, and
I know it's
you're
still
clear. We can hear you. Just frozen picture.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 1 second. This is the content you want, YouTube. I know it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the wall.
There we go.
No, I want the wall. Give me the wall again.
Wall view.
Wall view.
Yes.
That's what the back of my office looks like, everyone. Yep, there you go. All right. I think we're good.
NFL.
NFL. All right. So the NFL, we're like 3 weeks deep. And we have kind of half talked about our teams, but I feel like, okay, we're enough into this season that we should at least talk about we'll just call it our vibes on our teams, because we don't have time to necessarily go into every big matchup that's happened up to this point or preview every single week 4 game. There's one very sickos game in particular we'll talk about here in a second.
Incredible.
We
should pick that game.
We should. I'm down. We can change. I'll start because I'm wearing my Lions t-shirt. You guys can see on YouTube now that my camera's not frozen. For those of you on podcast, we had to edit out like 5 minutes of me just with a frozen camera. So my Lions actually play later tonight as we're recording. So obviously Thursday Night Football, Lions and Packers. And I know this game doesn't decide the division. That would be a ridiculous overstatement. But the reality is Minnesota is 0-3, Chicago's 0-3, and Green Bay and Detroit are both 2-1. If you want that early grasp on the division, it's tonight. And I like the Lions' chances because that defense has been really good, surprisingly good. I mean, think about in my brain, Minnesota and Detroit were not too dissimilar last year. Minnesota won a lot more games because they had miraculous success in 1-score games that they'll never have again.
Mm-hmm.
But the defense is what kept both of those teams back. I think Detroit did a great job this offseason of fixing a lot of the holes on that defense, and Minnesota did not. And I know both the Lions and the Vikings drafted an offensive player with their first respective picks in the draft. But the Lions at least had 2 more picks in the first and second rounds and went defense with a couple of those picks, Brian Branch and Jack Campbell. The Vikings really just went Jordan Addison, and then they didn't have a pick for a while. And that defense for Minnesota is just dreadful. Detroit's has actually been the strength of the team and has really carried them through some offensive inconsistencies. Part of that was David Montgomery was injured early, did not play in that game against Atlanta. And Jameson Williams has been suspended for the first 6 games of the season. He's still working on that through betting. His impact will hopefully be that he can stretch the field a little bit better than the Lions can right now. But I'm incredibly impressed by this team, and I'll probably have a completely different tune. If the Packers beat them like 30-10, I'll be in full panic mode. But I'm optimistically confident that we've got things working, because also we're an overtime period away from being 3-0. And you could say, well, you're Travis Kelce playing on the Chiefs from 1-2. And to you, I say, go away. But But I'm happy. The vibes are good in Detroit, and they could be really good if you go on the road to Green Bay tonight and get a dub and have firm control of that division. Because it's a two-team race already. Like, that's already decided. So that's what I'm feeling. Johnny, your situation's a little bit more desperate.
A little more desperate when it looked like the Rams just were going down the field on that first possession, scoring a touchdown. I'm like, the season might already be over because Burrow was game time decision. We didn't know if he was going to play basically all the way up until the game. You could tell even when the Bengals got the ball, like, oh, he's not moving. He is staying in that pocket. Lord help us if the offensive line can't protect him tonight against Aaron Donald. And when the Rams went down there and scored and eventually got called back, of course, but there was that moment of panic. And I think everyone in the stadium probably felt that too. Just, oh no, like we can't get into a shootout tonight. We don't have it. So it was crucial. The Bengals defense, as it has many times in the past, not gotten the credit it deserves. Lou Anarumo should be a head coach somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I mean, the dude is brilliant. He's been the only defensive coordinator really to come up with a game plan of stopping Mahomes that has worked multiple times. So he's brilliant. They've replaced a lot in the secondary, and still they did a wonderful job keeping the Rams out of the end zone, and that was critical in that game. If you watch that game, you know this already. Burrow did just enough. Jamar Chase was brilliant. The offensive line is starting to get a little bit better. Here's why I'm not in full panic mode for the Bengals, and that's because of the schedule. Schedule upcoming, they got the Titans, they have the Cardinals, and then they get the Seahawks at home. Now, I know Seahawks is not the same as the Titans and Cardinals there, but at least you're not going to Seattle for that game. After that, you're playing San Francisco. So the next three games are pretty crucial for the entire season for the Bengals. They, at minimum, have to be 3-3 by the end of the 3-game stretch, ideally 4-2, because the schedule is a first-place schedule. It gets tougher. You hope the offensive line continues to mesh a little bit better to protect Joe. I mean, in that game, I was literally yelling, I don't care if you get a holding penalty. Don't let him touch Joe. Yeah. And I still, subscribe to that at this point. Right. If he's not healthy, 10 yards don't matter. They really don't, if compared to him taking especially a low hit right now. I don't care. Hold all you want. Hope the refs don't call it. If they do, so be it right now. But one thing that they did in this game is something that the Dolphins constantly do, and they finally were moving Jamar Chase around the field. Rather than letting corners try to stuff him at the line of scrimmage, they're moving around. He was able to be dynamic, make runs across the middle of the field. I know Zach Taylor, for some reason, hates runs across the middle of the field. I don't understand. And then they need to feed Joe Mixon the ball more. He's been wonderful so far early in the season. I don't know why he's only getting 12 carries a game because Piron's not even there anymore. You want to give Chase Brown the ball a couple times more? Fine. Burrow's throwing it way too many times, especially with his injury right now. And again, he did Monday as well. So the defense is playing excellent in reality. If you watch the Browns game, the defense was not the problem there. It was the offense. They're still finding their rhythm. So until then, the defense really has to help them out. Won't be an issue against the Cardinals and Titans, in my opinion. Even though those games are on the road, the defense should be just fine. Enough for, hopefully, if the offense keeps playing as they are now, of course, the Bengals have absolutely no chance this season to have another good year. But the assumption is defense continues to play well. The offensive line has time to mesh. Burrow gets some reps with the wide receivers to where they find that rhythm again. Same old Bengals. They have that opportunity in the next 3 games. If they don't find it in the next 3 games, though, the season will be lost very quickly because the division, there's no easy games in that AFC North. And with the first place schedule, you're playing the 49ers, you're playing the Chiefs, you're playing the Jaguars. I know they've struggled, but I think they'll recover. You're playing some really tough teams down the stretch. So they need to start piling up a few wins here, do the Bengals. But incredibly pleased with the defense.
Yeah, that Monday night defensive show was pretty good and literally saved the season. No team has started 0-3 and made the postseason in the NFL to this point. And none of the 0-3 teams are really making me think that's going to change this year.
Nope.
Josh, your Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-1.
Technically, yes. You have gotten that correct. They are technically above 500 because the Raiders called a field goal on the Steelers' 8.
Josh McDaniels can't count.
Josh McDaniels does not know what football is. Listen, I am not on the Fire Matt Canada train because it's more than that. However, I don't think a Matt Canada offense has produced more than 400 yards per game, like of offense, like at any time in his career. Generally speaking, Steelers are ranked near last in things like points scored. Other than what was it, like a 73-yard touchdown that was beautiful, by the way, absolutely gorgeous. There really wasn't anything. I watched the first half of that game and just had to turn it off because it was just 3 and outs the entire time. Like, it was a bad team playing a bad team. Like, they're going to the Texans, and CJ Stroud looks not too bad.
Yeah, it's doing real well.
Not too bad.
With like no help.
With genuinely no help. And so there's a legitimate case to be made that the home team ekes one out. I think defense has been fine, but I've not seen anything offensively that inspires me to go, yeah, this is the year. I don't think I said that at the beginning. I think I said maybe a wild card slot. There was no reason to doubt it at that point. Kenny Pickett was making all of his throws, and turns out Matt Canada also likes jet sweeps.
I hate that play call.
It's so bad.
It's the new JT Barrett quarterback draw. Like, for all you Buckeye fans out there.
Yep.
I'm just screaming, even if it works.
It doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
So we're going to see. It's not. There was apparently a rumor going around. This was weird. Oh, also, by the way, there's a change.org petition to fire Matt Canada. If you see that going out, ignore it. It's only got like 5,000 signatures. It's not going anywhere. Matt Canada right now is probably not going to get demoted. But here's the thing. There was rumors going around that Canada had actually been promoted to now working directly with Kenny Pickett, which is weird because they already have a quarterback coach. When asked about it, Tomlin quickly said, nope, that's not it. And so the drama is, at some point, this all ends up with him. Again, we all agree, head coaches sometimes and oftentimes cannot be worried about every single little minutia of details on the field during game day. And so Matt Canada still is someone who is running some of that stuff. At the same time, it still ends up with him. And so the question now is, how satisfied is Tomlin in Canada's performance? There has genuinely never been, let me pull up these stats here. 333 yards against the Raiders. Like, it's not anything fantastic.
The line's still not fixed.
No, not at all.
Like, I don't understand that. Like, okay, so you can say what you want about the Bengals offensive line, but you can't say they haven't been trying. They've been throwing draft picks at it. They've been signing free agents. Like, what have the Steelers really done to try to fix that offensive line? Like, they're not like, Josh, I get what you're saying about Mike Tomlin, but like, he needs to make it a priority because it's the number one issue on the team.
Exactly.
Like, he should be over there. The defense is fine. That's why you win games. Like,
exactly.
TJ Watt and company.
They outscored the offense when they beat the Browns.
Right.
So listen, Iowa and Pittsburgh are basically the same. I saw that tweet.
Yes, they are
essentially the same. You hate your offensive
uniforms and all.
Uniforms, weird, predictable plays, 3 and outs, but a fantastic defense.
Yep.
So good.
So good.
Yeah. Well,
the Midwest just knows how to do it.
Yes, we do.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of the Midwest, I don't know if we're going to make this a thing. I think it'd be kind of fun to make a thing, and we'll put it on Instagram, and we'll let you answer what we'll call the question of the week. How original. But this week's question of the week is, which team would you rather be a fan of right now? The Chicago Bears or the Denver Broncos? And in case you didn't see it, I'm sure you did. The Denver Broncos were on the wrong side of a 70-point beatdown. Well, they didn't lose by 70, but they might as well have. They gave up 70 points, and obviously the Bears got trounced by Taylor Swift.
So I'd switch to basketball at this point.
See, none of the above. Switch sports completely. That's a valid answer, Josh.
I'm going Nugs. Yeah.
Denver Nuggets. Yeah.
I'm going Broncos. I'm going Broncos.
Yeah.
And that probably sounds insane, but what hope do you have if you're Chicago? We just talked about offensive line. It's still bad.
Mm-hmm.
The defense, which is supposed to be like your culture, is even worse. Justin Fields appears to be ruined.
Mm-hmm.
You fired your defensive coordinator after 2 games, like 2 or 3 games. You're firing a defensive coordinator that early. And I also say the ownership's an issue. The administrative ownership stuff that's more out of your control is real bad with Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And with Denver, they're so new. I don't think you can blame the issues currently at Denver on the current regime, coaching staff, or administrative or ownership. Because in reality, you could argue for Denver, they're trying to clean up the mess left for them at this point. So I think there's a few more reasonable excuses and expectations for Denver. There's never an excuse to lose 70-20 in the NFL. Never. Just never. I don't care if you were playing in the Miami Heat. No. But there's some more reasons, I think, for the Broncos that could be fixed. They're more fixable issues, I guess, in Denver. I know that Russell contract's an abomination, but I think there's more things that are fixable in Denver than are in Chicago.
Oh, absolutely.
Chicago looks like a lost cause to me. Just a lost cause. Josh, you just picked none of the above. You abstain.
I'll take the Broncos only because it does look like Justin Fields. This is not even, it's just sad to watch.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, with at least Russell Wilson, ideally, there's there's what he used to be, hoping that comes back.
Yeah.
And we might still see that, but
how many passing touchdowns is he up to? Are we running back the bathrooms versus passing touchdowns again?
No, I've been following that on TikTok. I think he's at 5. He had a good weekend. That's the thing. He's actually okay.
He's doing fine before the Miami game. He was actually doing okay. The defense has been atrocious for Denver, which is supposed to again be the strength.
Right. Scoring 20 against Miami. Not that it should automatically guarantee you a victory, but it's fine. I think he has scored a touchdown or 2. So he's actually doing okay. But since we're in that, Miami did score 10, which does mean that they almost equaled bathrooms in 1 week.
True.
So on the scale of things,
oh man,
he'll get over 12 this season, but man.
Aaron, are you in agreement?
I think so.
I mean, they're both bad options.
Yeah.
Let us be clear.
I'll play devil's advocate. I'm not actually picking Chicago. I will say the fact that they have a rookie quarterback in Chicago. I mean, he's not a rookie now, but you know what I mean? He's on his rookie deal. There's at least a little bit more flexibility in that contract where, like you said, Johnny, you're stuck with Russell Wilson. Or at the very least, you're stuck with his contract for a good long while with not a lot of draft capital or any of that. It's hard to know with the Bears because obviously Justin Fields is getting criticized like crazy and he's deserving of some of that. But for my take, it's hard for me to separate, okay, what's Justin Fields' problem and what is just being in this organization?
Yeah.
What has that done to him?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's obviously some plays like everyone's diagnosing film on Twitter like they're a head coach and saying, "Oh, look at these routes that he missed." Sure, whatever. But is he just so in his head because he gets sacked all the time? The weapons haven't been there. The offensive line has been terrible overall. It's gotten a little bit better since he started, but overall it's been bad. We say this fairly often, more quarterback careers are ruined than they are made. And I don't know with him. I truly don't. If you plug him into a new situation, I'd love to see what happens. I'm not taking away the fact that he ran for like 1,200 yards last year. Like, that's impressive. But that's not winning you ball games, unfortunately.
They also won't run him this year, though, Aaron.
That too. Yep. I mean, yeah. The play calling is just, I don't even know.
It's all bad.
It's all bad.
It's all bad.
So I think I'd have to pick Denver. But
if it wasn't for the
know.
contract, I think it'd be an easy Denver call.
Yeah, certainly.
I think the contract is the one thing that, because it hasn't kicked in yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it kicks in next year.
And
which is
in the last 10 years, I don't look at Denver and think, oh man, what a dumpster fire of an organization. Right. I do kind of feel that way with the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little biased because Kevin Warren went there. And so that made me want to not like them even more.
That's the real reason why it's going poorly.
Yeah, Kevin Warren. Yeah, I don't know. It's rough.
So anyway, 1:00 Eastern time.
Yeah, sickos NFL. Let's go. Yeah, I do have, because in true sickos fashion, you all want to know certainly which regions are getting the CBS coverage of Denver at Chicago. And it actually spans a decent amount of actual land, but it's just because Denver and then it's like Utah and then just wilderness is able to watch Denver, Chicago, and then basically Illinois. So it actually got dangerously close to us. We get Baltimore at Cleveland, which is good.
Ooh.
But it's I'm looking at the map right
Never
now.
Thought I'd
it's
be begging
poking into
for
Ohio.
Browns game.
It's
Never
it's
thought
poking
I'd
into
be
Ohio.
begging for
Fort
it.
Wayne. Interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the sickos matchup of the
dangerous.
century. So we'll completely reverse course. By the way, let us know what you think. If you're a fan of the Chicago Bears or the Denver Broncos, you are welcome to rant in our DMs on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. We'll try to post that question. We'll get your thoughts. And in advance, we'll ask your thoughts and we'll break them down here if we decide to run this question of the week back in the future. Picks of the week, we're picking Dolphins Bills. This is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. The Miami Dolphins have been really impressive. They're 3-0. Mm-hmm. The Buffalo Bills are 2-1, and they've been pretty good outside of that first Monday night game at the New York Jets, where they lost. They've won their last 2 games. So we're picking this game. I believe this is in Miami. And because of that, I'm going to take the Dolphins. I think this is going to be a close game. I'm interested to see Tua against that Buffalo defense. You've obviously got some game wreckers there. Obviously, a great quarterback matchup. Tua has just been tremendous. Johnny, you touched on the Dolphins' expertise in getting players out in the open and just the way they get the playmakers the ball. Mike McDaniel is just hilarious as a head coach. So
I love him.
I love him
so
too.
So quirky.
It's so fun. So
He's
I'm a little
authentic.
biased towards that. Yeah, he is. He's just himself.
Yep.
And he honestly, I'll give him some credit. Could have easily had the all-time NFL scoring record in a game. Chose not to. Chose not to kick that field goal. Just let the play clock run out. So good for him. Yeah. I'm taking the Dolphins. By the way, scoreboard myself 65, Johnny 60, Josh 59. Josh was most correct in the backyard brawl score.
Yeah, good job, Josh.
A couple weeks ago. So nice.
And we all did pick the game right.
We
though.
did.
I think we should point that out because we're wrong
actually,
all
for the first
time.
time.
So
we actually all got.
We
this.
all picked the correct team to win at least.
We nailed it. Vibes alone, the TikTok chemistry between Tua and Mike McDaniel is too magical to pass up. I only get videos of him like going, "Hey Tua, yeah, I was up at 4 in the morning, and so I watched YouTube. I YouTubed you, and I saw you play in high school, and you were trash. All right, go win us a game." That is such a good. I can't when I'm voting for the Dolphins this week, I'm just voting for that TikTok. of my coach, like just rose. Like if my coach were to just come up to me and say, "Hey, I saw," like if my boss were to walk up to me tomorrow at work and go, "Hey, I saw your ninth grade recital that you did on drums. You are trash." Like that's the equivalent of what we're talking about here. And that's hilarious to me. So I'm always going Dolphins. I guess they're also good at doing football things. Guess who I benched on my fantasy team?
No.
I missed
There's
out.
any number of players that you could have benched that would be bad.
Yeah. Who did I technically bench that means that I had like 85 points on the bench? I just forgot.
Tyreek Hill.
I did. And so it's
I mean,
okay.
if you have A-Chain, I understand. People were, oh man, I A-Chain on bench. Like, well, yeah, man. Yeah, that's not on you. Like, it's okay. You're not a psychic.
Yes. It's all right. I didn't. I still won. I still won my week.
That's all that matters.
Okay. I still won okay. I just looked one day and I'm like, oh no, this was not good. So guess what? Everyone's going to start this week. Everyone's going to get their shots. No one's out or questionable. We're going. I got Mostert. I got Waddle. Let's go.
Yeah, Waddle's been cleared from concussion.
Yep.
You know,
he's okay.
Live reporting on the podcast.
That you'll hear a day later.
Yeah. I have the Bills winning this game. I do.
Yeah. Okay.
I know, like, I feel like the Dolphins are the easy pick in this game just after what they did to Denver. And by no means am I saying that wasn't impressive. You do that to any team in the NFL. That's incredibly impressive. The whole, like, Alabama, would they beat the Browns this year? Like, no, they wouldn't. There is a gap the size of the Grand Canyon between the worst NFL team and the best college football team. Like, stop that. That's why that was such an insane performance. That does not happen in the NFL. It was a scoregami. There were 2 scoregamis this week.
That's what we need to be talking about.
We were losing their minds.
Dual scoregamis.
Yes. Week 1 in the NFL basically doesn't count except in your record, though. I'm going to kind of throw that away for the Bills. They've recovered since then. And I'm fascinated in this game. I think it's going to be a great game. I don't think any of us are blowout. I think Josh Allen's going to play great. I think we're going to get into a shootout. I actually think the Bills have better personnel on the defense overall and will make enough plays to win this game.
All right. Should be a good one. I'm excited.
It'll be a good game regardless.
If you are wanting more sicko football, Buffalo Akron play this week. If that's just too much, if you look at this Dolphins Bills game and you're like, that is just too high profile, I need something a little bit more sicko. Buffalo at Akron. Maction. By the way, we are all celebrating. We have made it through the gap, the chasm, the long overdue wait of weekday college football. We've made it, everybody. There's football tonight. There's football Friday. There's football Saturday. There's football Sunday. There's football Monday. You got to wait one more Tuesday. And then Conference USA gets us going on Wednesday night. And there's 54 straight days of football. Let's go. Yes. We did it, everyone. Let's go.
Finally.
Yep.
So close.
We're right there. If you can just one Tuesday night is all that you have to wait. And by the way, there's also wild card baseball on Tuesday. We'll be breaking that down a little bit next week, because by next week we'll have a pretty good idea of who's going to be in the playoffs. The Reds will probably not be there, but still a good season. We'll talk about that perhaps next week. All right, you know what time it is. It's time for what we're following. I'll start. I'm going to do a boring sports thing, but it's not very boring if you're a fan of the NBA. We had a blockbuster trade yesterday. Damian Lillard has asked for a trade request a little while ago from the Portland Trailblazers. Miami was a potential thought. Maybe the Lakers, maybe the Clippers. There was all of these teams rumored. Turns out the Milwaukee Bucks. And they got the Phoenix Suns involved, so the Suns got some pieces in this drill. But the Milwaukee Bucks have a duo of Giannis and Damian Lillard, which I think is awesome. Personally, I love both of those players anyway, so I'm excited to see them match up and see what that looks like. Damian has been one of the most loyal players in the NBA. I don't really have a problem with him asking for a trade. I know if you're a fan of the Trailblazers, I'm sure that hurts. I understand it from an outsider looking in. I have no issue with Damian Lillard looking to win a title. Absolutely no issue. I like that Milwaukee team a lot. I like Giannis a lot. I'm excited to see what happens. Are they the NBA favorites right now? I would have to say yes. But we'll debate that as we get closer. The NBA is not that far away from the regular season starting, but we'll debate that as we get actually into the season. And when we get to actually see them on the court together, we can make our assessments then. There's a lot of football and other things happening, so we won't spend time on that. But just a heads up, NBA will be here soon, and we love the drama that the NBA brings. I'll leave it at that.
Always the drama.
Yep. Oh, yes. It has been 1 year, and I feel bad because I missed it last year, which is why I'm giving it 3 weeks this year. Hey, guys, welcome to Chess Heads, where we cover the latest and greatest in all sports adjacent activities. For the purposes of this, I'm calling executive privilege and calling this a sport. It is now time for Fat Bear Week. Fat Bear Week is a thing. We talked about this last week. I will talk about it again next week when Fat Bear Week proper comes in. There is an Alaskan state park that every year has bears. That's what state parks do. They have bears. These bears are doing nothing but eating salmon, sleeping, and getting ready for the big sleep of hibernation. And in order to preserve the beauty of these bears, to raise awareness for conservation efforts and all of that good stuff, this national park launched Fat Bear Week about a decade ago. Last year, there was over 1 million votes on these big boys. I believe last year, Bear 747, or as we called him, Jumbo Jet, won. I've not seen pictures of him this year, but I've not seen the trail cam pictures yet. Those will be released next Thursday, I believe. Starts on the 3rd or the 4th. I can't remember. Oh wait, then maybe it'll be after. Regardless, we will vote. But this week is just as important because this week is Fat Bear Week Junior. They have some cubs. So if you go to Fat Bear Week, they have their own play-in tournament. They have their own first 4 tournaments.
That's adorable.
Hold on, let me find this thing. Yeah, so they have 4 bears that we can vote on. I think it was started yesterday and today. We can go and look at bear. If you want to do bear 910 or bear 909, you can go. And oh man,
is that the website or is that like the code name for the bears?
Oh yeah, if you go, so because these bears are like not tagged, but they are like trail cam watched over. They're just numerically named. And so, bear 910, bear 909 are the ones they've been tracking. Bear 747 last year was the one that won. His nickname ended up being Jumbo Jet, but then previous winners have been like Bear 510. I believe that was Otis. So we get to nickname them.
Yay. And
so I'm voting for, Chunky Boy. Yep. Bear 910 is going to be my vote this year. Okay. And then you guys can vote too. It is October 4th through October 10th. So next week I would do nothing but bring this up.
Yeah, make some plans. Just cancel them.
Make some plans. Cancel those plans. You can vote. Go online, explore.org/fat-bear-week and vote. Prove you're not a robot. I don't want robots voting for this. Humans only. Only humans can vote for
and bears. Right? Bears. Other bears can vote too.
Yes.
If bears can learn, and this is, I will allow
other
it.
bears can. Other bears are allowed to vote. Josh.
If bears will let me go into the forest and hug them, yes, they can vote on this.
There you go.
I think you get like a 1-day trial of that.
I want a 1-day trial.
That's not unlimited.
I don't want to hug every bear. I want to hug one bear, and in return, the bear community, the entire bear community, can vote. I think that's a fair trade.
I don't like that you're putting barriers to their ability to vote, Josh.
Say that again.
Feels wrong. You're putting in barriers in their ability to vote. And that feels wrong. Barriers.
Oh gosh.
Aaron's like, let's shut this down. All right, I'll make
Also,
mine quick.
real quick. Oh, Hana, can I just do
okay.
this one? You're fine because I see you're not following this. The biggest thing I've been following because I have to do my chess heads. But as the chess heads adjacent, which is actually real sports. Whenever I say chess heads adjacent, I'm talking about the real sports.
Or a band.
Or a band. Or both, because in this case, I've been following Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Yep.
No.
Swifties discovered
We
football.
nearly made the whole podcast without talking about it, Josh. We were so close.
No, we have to.
Like
we
2
had
minutes
to talk
away.
about it.
We have to talk about it. I don't care. What I do love is that Swifties have discovered football, and they were trying to explain it to each other on Twitter. Like, okay, so you have
that was fun.
Hey guys, hey girlies, here's what football is. They're already discovering what the tomahawk chop is, and everyone is comparing Kelsey and Swift's like horoscope stuff that I do not know.
That was crazy.
I am so ready.
These people don't have jobs. There's no way.
No. These are the true analysts, Johnny. They're going to figure out a better way to run this organization.
Well, if they figure out a better overtime rule for college football, I'm in.
They're going to solve the over. They're going to get into one. They're going to go into overtime this week or next week for some reason. They're going to discover what the overtime rules are, and by November it'll be fixed.
I hope so.
This is the crossover, Johnny. You need to welcome these Swifties.
No,
welcome them with open arms.
No,
because they're the ones who are going to truly solve all of football's issues. It takes a healthy outsider perspective, and what is more outsiders than a bunch of people learning what football is this year?
You got that right, though.
Past week.
They're the definition of outsiders.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I just feel bad for the cameraman. They're like, "Hey, man, so your job today? Point that camera to that suite.
Yep.
Lock it down."
Just lock it.
Go get a hot dog.
That's a great job.
Go get a dog if you want. Like you're not shifting that camera at any point.
Park it right there.
Yep.
Chill for a while.
Park it. You're not doing anything. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel bad. As someone who's been doing more production work, like more behind the scenes, we're bringing in an artist for our arts conference in a few weeks. Who obviously has a writer and all this stuff, like knowing behind the scenes, like what it takes to get anybody in, even like a non-Taylor Swift type of personality into like a venue. My goodness, I do not envy the events coordinator for the Arrowhead Stadium. Like that is a nightmare job right now.
Or the Jets on Sunday.
Or the Jets.
Is it the Jets?
Event,
yeah, it's the Jets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know they're probably used to.
No, you're right, Josh. Good shout out because those people deserve a lot of credit. That's a hard job. What I'm following is pretty short, but I just loved it, and it's kind of weird for me because I actually haven't loved most of the rebrands recently in professional sports, and not because I think a rebrand shouldn't have happened, but I just felt like the rebrands were botched, like just great opportunities kind of wasted. So if you follow MLS, you know I'm a big soccer guy. The Seattle Sounders just updated their logo, really. It wasn't like a total rebranding. Just cleaning up the logo a little bit, trying to modernize it. You're like, okay, yeah, whatever. And their main primary logo, you're just like, all right, cool. Who cares? But the secondary logo that's new is incredible. It is an angry orca kicking a soccer ball with his tail. And
yes,
it just has backyard sports vibes. Like the humongous killer whales feels like that would have been a team name in backyard soccer. And I'm just all about this. It is an amazing logo. Those are the type of logos I really, really want in sports, not just like a block letter. So let's get more of the animals like in the actual logo going and like interacting with the ball, because those are just the best logos. You got the old Vancouver Grizzlies with the ball. That's amazing. We need more of that. Seattle, just throw away your other logo. Make that the primary one. I know that you
worked like hours and hours on this new logo. Yeah. Throw it away.
Throw it away. The secondary one's better. I know you don't know it's Seattle because it's just an orca with a soccer. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. It's an incredible logo. Whoever created that, well done. I just want to, all of you graphic designers out there, shout out to that team. They did a great job.
Yep. Well, that's a good place to wrap us up. If you're watching on YouTube, which you can join us every week at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, to just jump in the chat, let us know your thoughts, especially as we ask questions like, would you rather be a Bears or a Broncos fan? You can do that. If you're watching on YouTube right now, if you're live tonight, 100 miles of hate rivalry between Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. Enjoy. Enjoy the college football. As always, lots of stuff happening. Major League Baseball, playoffs. It's all here. It's a good week, October. It's a good time in the sports calendar. So thanks for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. As always, hit us up on social media. We're at 5th and Goal Sports, and we're on YouTube, all the places. If you're a Swiftie trying to figure out football, we're probably going to have a video about what college football team you should choose. Because we get it, you're rooting for the Chiefs. But what college football should you choose? Ohio State's obviously the answer, but we'll give you some other options too. We'll talk to you all next week.